This conference will now be recorded.
You can start your recording device. And let it be noted that there are two finance committees present and one by phone. And
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda.
okay, got a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Second.
Got a second? Any opposed? Okay. 3-0. So we're going to start off with the changes that we discussed at the last meeting yesterday. And two of us have those changes. One of us, I guess, does not. Somewhere in this stack. There they are. So you want to,
I don't know if you would rather me read it to you or if we pull up the actual revenue and I can show you on the revenue page, the changes that I made.
better? Okay.
Yeah, I work best. Thank you.
As we've been discussing, we're not going to do transfers of the grocery receipts tax. We're going to hit directly the funds that the grocery receipts tax belongs to. So I've gone in on the revenue sheet and I've updated the FY23 projection and the lines that are zero in the GRT now. Those have been moved to the appropriate funds, whether it's landfill, recreation. I think those are the only two. So this is the amount that remains in general fund for grocery receipts based on our ordinances that we have.
Okay.
So it takes it down. This is the 2 million reduction. So this is down to 38 million even when we add all of the gross receipts up, which is on your summary sheet. I told you what it went from and what we moved it down to. So the first change on there is the GRT and taking it down the 2 million to the 38 million even. The next one is the PILT payment for Altus. We are adding that in. If you go down a little more, I think they're all highlighted. So I've changed the licensing and permit. I've lowered it down from what it was on building and electrical down to what the FY22 actual is on both of those. The next would be, I did add in the Homeland Security grant was there. That is the emergency preparedness money. We don't have a confirmation on it yet, but that's what she thinks she's going to receive. So we budgeted it in. The same with the E-rate grant is for the library. And they've made a commitment to her to give her the same amount in 23 that she got in 21 or 22.
But isn't that E-rate, isn't that an encumbered fund? It has to be, we don't have.
It's going to be used for those hot spots,
Yeah.
that and the service for the hot spots.
Okay, so it's not discretionary money.
Right.
Okay.
And the same with the Homeland Security, that is for emergency preparedness. The humanities grant, we don't know the amount, but we put a placeholder of $1,000 in there because we know we will get something for the library for the humanities grant. The planning and zoning for the services for planning, zoning, and the annex, I lowered down to 22 9-month actual, which is one that we talked about. I did have this on here. It is restricted donations, and this is the library, and we don't normally budget donations. We would do a budget adjustment as they come in. She's got a house from the Green Estate that she's wanting to sell. And I know we talked about not doing any adjustments for the first 6 months. So I would like to be able to include about 85,000 for that house, that it gives her the ability to spend if we get it sold in the next 9 months.
Council back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a done deal.
We,
Shall I say it?
Okay.
They're gonna get that.
subject to our,
That passed and
Well, but like I said, we don't normally budget
Yeah.
donations, but this is a little
that,
bigger than
yeah,
normal.
that's in focus, so I don't have a problem with that.
Back down a little one, the other directions. That right there. The unrealized gains and losses for the mark to market has been removed
good.
from the actual. Okay, now you can go down. Those are grants for the library, and they are committed amounts, but we don't actually have an award letter on those, but those are amounts that Enid is pretty sure she's going to get. The same with the HIDA grant. We don't have an actual award letter, but they are anticipating receiving the same thing that they got for 22.
Okay.
There's the gross receipts for capital improvement fund. So I moved that down out of there. So this is now part of the capital improvement fund. There is the recreation. Recreation receives two portions. One portion, this portion is going to go to actual recreation. The other GRT amount is going to go to their debt service, which is a different fund a little bit farther down. Those are, after going back and looking at everything, that is the debt service. So yesterday we were thinking that that was part of their actual fees. That's the debt service for the convention center. And it is the bed fees go into that account. What we've done is the same thing. It's the FY22 actuals and then annualized for the 12 months. I don't know if that's too high. It's more than what is needed to cover the debt service.
That's a bond.
You're hopeful.
That's actually a bond.
Right.
Okay.
But I didn't know whether to, because we talked yesterday about it not actually being there. So I wanted to point out it will stay, because that's what it is the debt service for convention center.
Well, I just pray that it makes enough money to pay the bonds so we don't have to go get general fund money.
And it is. The 540,000, I think, is enough to cover this year. 552,000 would be the payment for fiscal year 23, and we've already got 540,000 for 9 months. So it'll have enough. I just don't know that it'll actually go to 720,000.
Are we reserving the leftover?
It would stay in the fund.
Should have stayed there, so it's.
We can't play with that money.
No.
We can't pay the bonds off early either.
Pardon me?
We can't pay the bonds off early either.
No, it's just gonna sit there and accumulate.
So what happens to that? Was that bed tax, the ordinance, was it actually predicated on the bond payment? So once the bonds are paid off, it falls off?
I think in 2032.
I'm sorry?
I think it says in 2030.
32.
I have to go back and look at the ordinance, but I think the bond ends in 2030.
Yes, I've got it on my desk sheet.
Okay.
So
So it's continuing potential revenue stream after the bonds are matured.
the GRT for the road fund.
Right.
And the GRT for the debt service for recreation. That is more than what is needed. And when we get to the summary sheet, you'll see that the beginning cash balance is high in that. So that'll cover.
That's just for debt service, and again, those are
Yeah,
restricted.
that is strictly the debt service. And then the GRT for the landfill.
Right.
And I think that's it. If you go all the way down, it'll show you our revenue use was 116 million. It's down to 114 million because of pretty much the cut in GRT.
Right. Good job.
Okay. Any questions, Jason? Or excuse me, Councilor Perry?
No, sir, I'm still listening. Everything's good.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I think it's fine. It's
All right.
what we asked. It's done.
Verifies. Okay. So now I guess we need to go to the overall budget sheet.
You want to jump to the personnel?
Yeah, I guess we probably better review that real quick too.
I thought we had
Starts on page 7.
7.
In your finding.
And that's personnel, that's the summary. Make sure I got everybody. And that's on page 7 of your packet.
So. Questions? Yes.
And remember, because the packets were printed in portrait, the numbers is going to be on your left side, on the page numbers.
I'm at the wrong page, 7.
Okay,
Yes.
it's actually
Page
page 7, page 1 of 7.
7.
Yeah.
Or 7 of 1.
Gotcha.
Okay. So,
It's just payroll.
right. So
Payroll for the general fund.
the 13% downward is because of the reclassification of the city clerk. Is that my understanding?
Correct. And she left in February, so yes, sir.
Fleet maintenance goes up, and I think that's something that does need some discussion.
Well,
To talk about that, we added an additional person in that department, a mechanic to be in the shop with their contractor. So that's what that difference is right there.
well, the big one, Bob,
You might pound on that a little bit and
yeah.
tell us what.
First vehicle.
Goals.
Right. We had a private contractor providing our fleet maintenance for us. We have chosen not to renew that. Their contract was up for renewal. We chose not to renew that contract. Our fleet manager and fleet mechanic will be going out, hand delivering RFPs to every mechanic in town and getting them on a multiple source list like we've done on our demos, different things where we can choose from multiple different vendors.
So
We're
finance.
bringing that through the appropriate committees and the full council once that's done. And then departments will be taking their vehicles to any mechanic in town to get them. Feel like we can get a better service that way. We'll be looking at a few basic mechanics on that will do some of our minor oil changes and things like that in-house maybe. And we don't have to do that right now because we can still get those services done locally. And I think it's going to be a win-win because our money's going to be staying local with our local vendors, our local mechanics, businesses, and we won't be with this national company anymore. So that's very briefly. On the fire side, it's on the consent agenda for tomorrow night or Thursday night council meeting for the second posting of the RFP for fleet services for the fire department. They're kind of specialized. You have to be EVT, emergency vehicle technician, to 1, 2, 3, or 4 to work on that type of equipment, depending on what they're having worked on. There's a company out of Albuquerque that has been coming to Roswell, and we're having to pay trip charges for them to come down here and work on our fire trucks. What we're hoping they'll be able to do is get a contract here, open a business here, and then they'll also get it to bring in fire trucks from the surrounding areas, Carlsbad, Artesia, Hobbs, and we'll get that service provided here locally too. So that in a nutshell.
Some of the equipment they've got is so big, and if it's really broke down, you gotta put it on
We have
Truck.
Haul it.
and the only way you get from here to Albuquerque, I'm told, by those overhaul wide load rigs is you gotta go all the way to Santa Fe to get on the interstate. They won't let you get on 40 or something, some screwy deal. I don't know. So the freight cost goes up because the mileage goes way up.
We did have our own shop years and years ago when I was
Yeah.
still at the fire department. Why they chose to go this direction, I wasn't a part of those decisions, but
Yeah, the city used to maintain all their own fleet
yes,
at once upon a time.
yes.
And then took it, this company that you're terminating the contract with was the first one to get the contract. They performed, and that's why I understand. Then you went to MTA.
Right.
And you went back to the original company and it's not working. And plus you have to pay them a monthly management fee,
5,000.
5,000 a month management fee that in this case, we won't have to pay that. So and hopefully, I don't know how you're going to negotiate this, but maybe I don't know, it's going to be difficult because those labor rates are going to be all over the
They're
board.
all over, they're going to be
They're all over
over
the board and parts the same way, you know, how you,
And a lot of times depending on the piece of equipment, it may be the availability of who has the availability of that
Yeah.
part. Is who's going to get the job.
yeah, and it's difficult. I mean, I'd say we ought to look at going back to that, doing our own, but finding people, good luck.
That's all our previous providers have struggled with that themselves.
Yeah.
Let's get it. You're in the business.
Well-
Very well know. That's the issue.
I remember part of the cry from the electorate, you may remember this, was that they wanted local people doing the work and the city people doing the work. Well, we'll try it. We'll keep working on it. Do you have any comments?
No, sir.
We'll keep working on it. We'll finally get a better mousetrap, I hope. So, anything else on a quick overview?
Well, the municipal court wages are way up, or 80 grand up, 21. Finance wages are up from 21. That's 19, they were 524, now we're going to 865. That's a pretty decent increase. And we're saying we're not adding any staff. So, and then same thing with legal. We're going up from 145 to 412 and not adding any staff.
Legal, we promoted up the admin to a legal paralegal. So she promoted up, and then we added a contract administrator as well. So we did add a new person, and then we promoted up the current person, Amalia.
There he is.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hello,
I didn't hear you get off the phone.
up quietly.
Kind of,
She actually hung up without walking in.
kind of stealthy,
Okay.
Got to watch him.
but what's the increase in finance?
Me for one. Because I wasn't.
I don't think they're paying you 300,000.
Wish.
I do too.
I need the others.
So we have, Mr. Chair, councilors, we do have an Excel on the personnel side. If we get into details, we always have an Excel that provides the details of the numbers. So let me go to finance. See, you can cover that. Here you go. Move it over. Move it over.
Yeah. So in the year for fiscal year 21-2. Isaac was added, and Arvis were added. And then I wasn't in 21, the full year. When we combined purchasing and finance in the same department.
Okay,
So we've added, so Anna's in there now, and the vacant purchasing agent position is in finance now, as opposed to in purchasing.
And that position has been restructured as a purchasing tech.
okay.
And,
Now I see what I have to pay Sadie to get her back.
Well, to go down, little Kathy's on there too.
Is she on that one? Yeah.
Oh, no, this is water
Yeah,
billing.
Kathy's-
Our billing, are they included in your finance budget? I didn't think so.
They are part of the enterprise fund, so it's a department within the enterprise fund.
So you started with 628. Is that what you're saying your pure wages are
For
for
finance,
finance?
Current salary.
current.
That's not including all of
And then-
her.
No,
Those are your two increase amounts, the 36 and the 7, correct? And then your longevity. So you're at 675 in pure wages. Okay. I think you understand.
Okay.
Which page are you on now?
John, page 7,
7
the right
I
there.
am,
on the
okay.
bottom, not on
Human resources is a large increase as well.
the, yeah.
We added another generalist and let's
That's-
see.
Not on or will be put on.
It's already on. She's already, so we added another generalist to help with recruiting, and that is all we've added. And, human resource managers that we did not have last year.
Didn't have it,
Yes,
it was an open position.
yes. Those are both.
Okay.
So in 30 seconds or less, facilities maintenance, how is it structured? Got one go-to guy, or has everybody got a different building that they're in charge
We
of?
have one go-to guy. He just came on with us. You want to go to facility maintenance for him?
Yeah,
Justin came on with us in
How many people?
February.
Right there. One.
that one.
Scroll over all the way to the end and it'll show you the number of people.
Okay, we got an electrician, that's good.
That one's vacant right now, so we have a total of 10. The electrician position has been vacant since November of last year, but we can't find anyone. But it's been
No.
vacant since November of last year.
We had an electrical inspector or electrician's position open at the air center for a couple of years.
I don't blame them for not working out there and trying to do World War II electrics.
But those are our electrician. Justin Holcomb is our new facilities manager. And now we do have, help me here, Juan, that there's a couple of facilities that have the recreation center and
Gary Corman.
Gary Corman in there. He did some facility stuff in there, the on-site facility
That's correct.
because of all the pumps into the pools.
And the adult center as well.
Yeah.
Adult center and even the convention center and a little bit of the internal, the small projects, they did their own. So facilities covered all the other buildings. And as you can see, even the custodians, there was only 2 under facilities, which is for the city hall building and the annex. All the other departments have their own custodians. There used to be a sign under facilities, and then just recently this year is when we split them up and assigned them to the individual departments. So
Gotcha.
Transit has their own custodian,
Parks
Parks has their own custodian, and so forth.
and
So
PD.
Gotcha.
Okay. Got it. Public affairs.
We got fire went up 15% in wages.
We added a deputy police chief, fire chief.
We had
It
a
was an open
Yes.
position.
What are you asking about? I'm sorry. I was looking at over your shoulder there.
Mhm.
Okay, fire, you okay with that?
Well, it is what it is. Planning was in 21 was 98,000. Now we're 449,000. Or is that the way we were allocating or had people?
We didn't have Kevin for the full year. Kevin came on a little bit late. And then we added their customer service, a specialist, and
Also portions of other departments, correct, are now categorized underneath.
Yeah.
And Spencer.
They weren't there before.
Spencer Aiken, we added as well
Yeah.
to that
Pull
department.
that back up, please.
So if you scroll all the way to the top.
Right there.
So the planner two we added, of course, our community development director's only been here a year, so he was not on that budget before. Not all of his salary. And then we also added Jessica Reyes, which is customer service specialist.
And the column is actually hidden. That would give you the salaries on that.
Yeah.
That's what I- They're missing. They're hidden.
What I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Hide them.
Well, then there's this.
Yeah, that's the column. How many code enforcement officers do we have? 4?
We have 4.
Or in the supervisor.
Yeah, okay.
They have it divided into quadrants. Officer in each quadrant, and then the supervisor handles all the condemnations, demolitions,
Yeah,
that stuff.
it's a lot. Okay. And engineering, where was engineering hiding in 19?
Engineering, Mr. Chair, Counselor, was under 2601, which is the capital improvement fund. And then this year, we moved them under the general fund. I think that was what Joe was talking about yesterday, that in the past, engineering, a lot of engineering projects and road projects were under 2601. And we split that up this year so that 2601 acted more of a capital fund for everything, general fund, all these other services. Roads, it maintains in the roads. For engineering, the personnel and operating expenses, we're moving
That's
to the
what-
general fund. Yes, sir. And-
A better way to manage it.
That's correct. And
Tell me about code enforcement.
you want me to bring it up, Mike?
Yeah.
Please. Because we're full service department there.
Code enforcement.
Yeah, you're there.
You're on the page.
You're on the.
You're on.
Oh, sorry.
Code enforcement has the building inspectors, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, the building official. And then Senator Gamboa is the office assistant to them.
Yeah,
And then they have their Arceli Martinez, who is the senior admin assistant. So they haven't hired no new ones. Well, no, they did. This last year, they added,
so some of these,
the office assistant.
They've all been there. I think one that's new is probably Emiliano Orona, I believe. That code enforcement officer one was a new one. Because he was not there previously, I believe.
Yeah, but it wasn't a new position.
No, it wasn't a new position. It was budgeted already.
So some of these increases is because of the pay raise that we're considering.
5.9, yes, sir.
5.9.
And then the 2% in December, so 7.9.
Yes.
Right. Which annualizes not the full 2, right? It's only 1.
That's correct.
So we're really looking at 7% wage increase
Yes.
as part of this. So
Yeah,
animal control, tell me about that. You're up 18%.
Of course, got our supervisor, 1, 2, 3, 4 officers. Where we struggle is with the kennel workers, keeping people in positions. And there's constant turnover there. There's the kennel coordinator who manages the kennels. Once we pick them up on the street, bring them in, and they're in charge of maintaining them, keeping them over there. So that was a new position. And I think we added an additional kennel worker over the last year.
Yes. We only had one to last year, and then we added an additional one for the help that we were needing there.
How do you operate that 24 hours a day with a kennel worker?
I go in 7 days a week. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yeah.
So you're able to operate that with just 2 personnel?
That, well, everybody helps out.
Everybody's a kennel worker.
Yeah,
The
everybody.
officers are cleaning as they're not picking up out in the field. They're out cleaning, they're cleaning the kennels as well. They're rotating in their schedule.
And they're in there 7 days a week.
So why did we go to 489? It says an 18% increase.
This one.
Is that the number that's on my spreadsheet would be my first question?
Okay, let's look at the total number on your spreadsheet at the end.
Yes. 489,
Yeah.
okay.
That includes the,
489.
the only thing that's changed there is just the 5.2%.
Doesn't look like that much to me, but
Mhm. I just saw the big number, 18.4 up. Oh, that's what happened there.
well,
And I want to say we didn't have a supervisor for, I want to say our last supervisor left in 21. So we didn't have a supervisor for
That's correct.
almost a year, I believe.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
we brought on the supervisor. So yes,
Okay, that'll
That's
count for
correct.
Yes.
That Joseph
Yeah.
retired.
That explains most of that.
yes.
In 2020, we were sitting at 552.
Yeah, that'll count for that.
Yeah,
Okay,
Joseph was gone almost a year, I believe, that before we hired Nicole.
okay. We come up with our 33 million. It's up 15%. So instead, 14.8, I just get into the totals. Your IT's up substantial.
We added 2 positions to IT. The second, just recently, for engineer, their network engineer, and another desk helper.
IT.
Yes, for IT.
And we did that just recently because we get attacked daily, as you're probably aware in your businesses, on these attacks. The school system lost their entire system for 3 months this year.
Yeah. No, it's money you got to spend today's environment.
It's unfortunate, but
It's just what you have to do.
Policy really is what
Does the city have a insurance policy for
their IT.
IT?
I believe we do.
We've got some cyber coverage.
Cyber?
Yeah.
Yeah. How much do you have? Do you know?
That would be.
It used to be inexpensive, but it's well worth the protection because what you get for your cyber coverage.
No, it is not broke down on here.
I think it's
It's a
something,
good question.
I think it's something you'll look into to see what the cost is to.
See what we have. You know,
Yes, cyber coverage, and I think like we have like 5 million or 10 million is what we out there. It covers your recovery and the ransom. It'll cover the ransom when they go after you. So. So from 21. We've gone from 26 million to 30, we have a $7 million increase. What'd you all do in 21, Jason? Did you,
21 was when we cut positions for COVID.
And not,
27, and you went down $1.5 million,
yeah, we went down,
and now we're back up to 30, we're well above that.
putting the positions back. That was necessary during that. And,
Yes, in order to keep everything operating now that we're out of COVID or coming out of it,
Right,
put the positions back to start being able to stay open during those times.
yeah.
We did cut, I think for severance package, I think we cut a total of about 43 positions because I took early severance, 43
total of
people.
101 positions.
Yes. And
Or some of those had to be put back right away because a couple of them were the fire chief and the deputy fire chief.
yes,
So had to have someone to.
we didn't fire them.
Just let it go.
No, they took the severance.
yes. they took
Made sense for them. Yeah.
Parents.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on that?
Moving on. Now, this just needs to be parked somewhere because we still may make some adjustments later on, but this we understand now.
Yeah. Doesn't leave us a lot of money.
Yeah, the cost of doing business.
I get it.
If it wasn't for payroll, we'd have a lot of money.
Well, a lot of employers would.
Yeah. Not just limited to the city of Roswell, that's for sure.
So what we went through was the general fund. Do you want to go through the special revenues and the enterprise fund payroll, or it's all sort of the same?
Whatever you want to do, but I'm not thrilled.
Well, yeah, let's do a quick review of those. I don't see any big whoops there till you get down to the golf course. We've already talked about the cemetery. I don't think we need to revisit that. We didn't talk about Pecos Trails. Yeah, we did. We spent a lot of time on that.
Museum has jumped dramatically.
That's pretty good. Was it the museum or the zoo that you got your $20,000 for all the agony that you're taking?
Yeah. That's on the revenue side.
Yeah.
The zoo has gone from, I mean, you can't use 21 as a COVID year, but it's now 900,000 up from 9 months. This year's 431. So that's a substantial increase.
We added the store out the zoo. We didn't have that before. And guest services, sorry.
That's a lot though.
Education coordinators,
All of the green are part-time positions.
zookeepers. We added one position of a zookeeper, another zookeeper.
And yellow ones are obviously vacant positions too.
And we also didn't have a zoo director for, when did John come on? Do you remember?
John just came on in June of last year. So we didn't have a zoo director for a while.
Probably about 8 months.
I would say about 8 months.
Yeah.
And then we were closed for all of COVID.
Yes.
Our part-time positions, they're part-time come and go. So if we, in the low season, we don't fill them because we don't really need that many people. But in the summertime, when it's a little bit more active, we do. And so the other zookeeper and that's going to be back open 7 days a week because we had shut down and we're not operating 7 days a week.
And then we added a grounds maintenance person out there to maintain the grounds,
Yes.
a supervisor. Yes.
So that whole area is not, it's all zoo now. It's not park and zoo, correct?
Correct, yeah. So the zoo grounds person maintains
As a whole.
the whole property.
So we don't send parks people over there all anymore.
No.
Okay, expenditures going up in the golf course.
Yeah, $50,000 in revenue, which got a long ways to go to get to 70/30.
I don't disagree.
We had to add the golf course manager. And that's Eric. And then we added, where's money? The golf course, golf shop supervisor, and of course the golf shop senior, we had 2 of those. And then the outside attendants and the beverage bar attendant.
So we got to put something in there to sell too. That's part of it. I think we talked about that.
I think we talked about it yesterday in that parts.
Maintenance, or the maintenance out there is fully staffed right now in the grounds maintenance,
That is correct.
fully staffed.
And I want to say, since this is an older document, the only thing they have vacant right now is an outside service attendant. Everything else has been filled. It's just that we wanted to make sure we didn't continue moving numbers, but it's all been filled except for one position.
I'm good with that.
Good?
Yeah.
Or you want to take up? I'm gonna ask that the streets, roads, or in parentheses, streets, roads, whatever, come in on Saturday. And also the water and the sewer folks come in. And let's talk about those because those are big items. And also our contract, like the economic development. We can't do the Spano Chamber because their deal's tabled in legal committee right now, but we need to put a placeholder in there for them.
Yeah.
And then Main Street Roswell is another one that we'll have to bring in, let them do a little presentation.
Just our total payroll is up 15%.
Mr. Chair, are you, just so I understand, are you wanting for each department to come before this?
Time, I just want those few.
So streets, water,
Water,
roads.
Water, wastewater, and roads.
right.
Okay.
That's all we're gonna have time for. Rest of it, we're gonna have Saturday.
So a recommendation that I would give, and I apologize if this was said and I didn't hear earlier. The recommendation that I would have, when all the years past when I've been on finance committee, is to allow those that we have within our finance department, that the experts that we have and with administration that have met with these departments to look at things with that hawk-eye view, looking down everything, to come back with a recommendation, because but I think the recommendation that's been brought has been different maybe than in the past, because I think there's been some maybe just not having clarification as to maybe what is wanted. Where in the past, Joe would bring to us a finished product that was balanced, and we would look from that. And then from that point, Councilor Orpatha, Councilor Best, myself, whoever would bring up those issues that we had concerns with and brought that into a rise and balanced it. Then where now we're on a much larger of a tilt, because I think that there may be the old saying, if there's a mist in the pulpit, there's a fog in the pew, as to how the process is wanting to be worked with the new administration and everything. So that my recommendation would be to consider that, but that's just my recommendation.
Well, they've done all their preliminary work between the time that the election was held and the new councilors and new mayor were sworn in. And they were probably doing it during the election, would be my guess. I think they got it done. And these are the ones that I want to have them come in, and we're going to talk to them, because we've got the recommendation. It's $4 million out of kill as it stands presently.
Can I ask staff, is that $4 million out of kill the staff's recommendation, or is that the raw information that's being brought to this committee to determine a balanced budget?
That is, and jump in, Janie, or Mike, or Juanita. The budget that you have before you is what was presented to us from some of the departments with some adjustments. For the most part, you already saw what the personnel is and the operating. So that's what the numbers added up to. Now, there were some adjustments, but it's not completed because obviously there is some additional adjustments that need to be made. So there's further work to be done.
With raw data.
It's raw data compared to maybe in years past what I'm used to seeing at this point. And I think the reason being for that is there was such a drastic change. And I think that there was maybe a request to pull off from some of that to allow the electeds to have more of a hands-on versus our administration having a stronger hands-on and then bringing to us to consider. If I'm wrong on any of this, Mike or Juan, please correct me.
Well, I believe you're right. It was our intent to give the council the opportunity to have more of the hands of the previous council. I felt like their decision was that they wanted us to have more of a heavier hand in the budgeting process. And this was to back up a little bit and let the new council have more of a say-so in the direction. And that's what we need. We need the direction of.
And I think that's what I'm starting to sense is that maybe there's I think with the former council, there was a whole lot more. They knew what Councilor Perry was looking for. They knew what Councilor Pace was looking for. They knew what people were looking for. I think right now some are at a loss, maybe staff of what is Mayor Jennings looking for? What is Councilor Corn looking for? What is Councilor? And they're trying to step on that as much. So that's why I'm saying I would consider for Saturday to maybe give them I don't know if that's enough time, but give them an opportunity to give us a presentation of what could bring into it and then allow us the opportunity to make those adjustments that we need.
Well, the budget document, and I assume we're still talking about the same budget document, is now underwater $6 million because we did the $2 million adjustment. I understand that, but I can tell you that it's my perception, may be wrong, but my perception is that we got a lot of street work going on. You got to keep that going.
Absolutely.
Now the road department, somewhere in here, is about 1.7 underwater,
No,
Recall, that's about
it's
right.
1.4.
1.4.
There's a number of outstanding encumbrances, POs that are currently under.
Yeah, 1.453, 142, if you want to get real persnickety about the number. And airport funds underwater, $1,100,000. And the water fund is, if this document is 5.2 underwater, excuse me, 5.4 underwater. And we're going to have on our agenda $1.5 million round figures adjustment in the water.
It'll up that.
You know,
It'll cut that deficit.
cut that down. So, I mean, it's pretty fluid, but
You take that out, you're still sitting at what? 5 million?
no,
Take one
you'd be
point.
down to 4 million.
Yeah. So we're out of balance by 4 million.
Yeah.
And what I think I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, is that I don't think that what we're seeing now that underwater is anything that's new. I think that's every year the staff brings all the wants and the desires and what could make my department better. And if I had this and if I had that, well, I could make this wonderful. By the time it gets to council, a lot of that our administrator that we've hired to oversee all of those has cut through a lot of that to bring us into a very much more closer place to allow us, where I think that maybe I'm wrong, but what I'm starting to feel is that maybe staff hasn't done as much of that this time because they need to see where the comfortability is with Councilor Hildebrand, Councilor Corn, Councilor Arnold, with all of us. You know, where's that comfortability?
You've been through this process many times, Jason. So staff comes, presents to what I call executive staff.
Yes, sir.
And that's when I look at it and go, executive staff, at least the way I've always operated, come with your budget, executive staff will say yay, nay, and then give it to the board. But I don't think that's happened.
Correct. That's what I'm.
My question is, why didn't it?
Go ahead. When you say give it to the board, Counselor, what do you mean?
By giving it to the city council to approve the budget.
Well, because it's not, normally when we present a budget to, whether it's in the past.
But what I'm saying, if these departments presented it in, and was there any trimming at that point in time?
Yes.
And we're still 4 million out.
There has been, in my opinion, if I can just share.
I'm just trying to understand the process.
I think that from what I am catching, or my perception, that's a better way to say it, because I don't want to speak for anyone, is that there's some of that has taken place, but to the level that I'm used to, that Councilor Pace is used to seeing, Councilor Best is used to seeing, is not there. And I think that's primarily because there's a different way of looking at government, at least from what staff could see during election cycle. And a lot of things that were being, brought to attention as concerns. So I think from what I am starting to gather is that there was a reservation to go to the level that they're used to doing, because there seemed to be the desire, especially from the mayor's race, to have much, much, much more hands-on in this than what we have seen in the past.
Perception is right on.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could just add to that. When our departments come in, councilors, they come in, you would think they just won the lottery in their departments for their request.
And a lot of that is still here.
Some of it is still there. And we didn't want to overstep our bounds. We wanted if there wants to be input from the council, we encourage it, we want it. And so we didn't go through with a scalpel like we've done in years past and get that thing just where we walked in.
I'm understanding the process.
Right. Yes.
That's all. I'm not criticizing
Oh,
the
no, no,
process.
no.
I'm understanding.
I'm just trying to lift that curtain and let's all get on that same area where we're. I don't want y'all to feel like, wow, why, this is crazy. Where's our staff? Are we competent? What's going on here? I think that we're at a different level in the process in an open meeting like this than regularly where we would be. So if I can just sort of lift that curtain and get that.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
I've never been the way I've ever done a budget.
Is that one?
I've never done a budget that way.
Right.
Starting in 1980, when I was in the legislature, we would bring the people in, the requestors, if you will, in, and we'd take the knife to it. And when I was on the county, did the same thing. The requesters came in and we would discuss it, and we would say, this is the number you're going to live with. And so that's the other side of the coin.
Sure. And I'm not posing one against another. I'm just saying we're getting close to that mark, and I'm just making the suggestion. I'm one counselor out of 10 and one counselor out of 4 on this committee to maybe consider allowing our staff, with the few days they have before Friday, to give an attempt at that. And if that's not acceptable, then it's not acceptable, but that's all I'm doing.
I understand. If we're going to talk about some of that stuff, and they got till Saturday, because that's the next time we meet, to give us suggestions on how to get this in balance, but we've got to set the parameters. And I think we've already done that with the revenue side. And we're going to discuss some of those things. And we're going to actually have some real live participation from some people on Saturday if they can come.
And I think part of the process as well, with the drastic changeover, the amount of changeover that there has been and the amount of changeover in this committee, the committee would have probably been a lot further along by now, because when I was chair, I was already in conversations in November and in December and in January and February. You're picking up in April. Welcome.
Well,
so it is a little different. And usually if we have some changeover, we have changeover, but it's usually not to the amount of what we have. So it's sort of a new ball game for everyone trying to.
Oh, I got it. And I've got a plan for the next year. And next year, when we're doing this, hopefully it'll be a smoother transition. We've got this far to travel, and we got this amount of time to get it done.
Mr. Chair and councilors,
Careful, yeah.
if I may, I mean, if that is something that the council wants us to also prepare as just as an option for you all to consider what some ideas are from staff, then we definitely could provide some information on Saturday for you all to consider as well, as part of your ongoing discussions with the departments that are there and your further review of the budgets.
I'm not limited staff participation in this thing.
No, I think it's a great idea, Mr. Fuentes, that you offer that up.
But we're going to have a more hands-on approach than you're used to. And I've got a plan for next year that would include budget, regular budget or finance committees, excuse me, I keep using the wrong term, for a while and going through and exploring these various aspects of the budget. Because I want to know where every penny is spent and how it's being spent. Period. And that's going to take some more time, but we don't have time to go to that depth right now. But it's my desire to hit the infrastructure side a pretty good lick right now. And that's what we're going to do Saturday.
Yeah. Do you have the capacity in your Tyler system to show your variances? Budget items, it'll show your variance.
Based on,
You load your budget amount and then it'll take it against and show what your,
well, and that's what you see on the side is the variance, and we can tell it between current year actuals or current year revised budget.
yeah, so that's available.
I'm gonna have to step a little away from just.
The detail.
On the detail.
Yeah, and you have the detail on every line item there.
Line items.
Yes, that's correct.
Are you measuring, but you're not measuring a variance between your current year actuals and your current year revised budget?
Right.
You're not,
No.
we're not measuring that.
No.
So we don't know where we're really running against the actual budget versus actual expense.
Right. Not on these.
Not on this.
We would have to, we could do that if we were to import all of this data into Excel and do a formula.
Yeah.
And it would, it would have to
How
require.
do you do that with departments? Or do you
And
show them their variance?
Probably do that on an actual report where it's budget versus actual for current year.
Right.
This is all of what you've got are for next.
Yeah, going forward. I'm just trying to figure out what you do on a current, how you measure yourself or we measure ourselves on where we're at, where we're spending, because I think that would be some guidance to council to see where we, as Joe says, pull the strings, what's up, what's down. Help us guide those expenditures going in the future. And if you're doing that with the departments, how often do the department heads see their budget?
We've got some that look at theirs weekly. We've got some that maybe look at it monthly.
Yeah.
Depending
Like how often do you all sit down as executive management with these departments and go over their budget?
I don't sit down with my departments to go over them with their budgets. They go over they maintain their budgets on their budget report. You can see what percentage you should be at and see what percentage you are actually at. That's how a lot of them are tracking their spending of their money as they go throughout the year, is that if you're at 25% of the year and you're at 80% for the year, then.
Right.
And I will add, at the higher level, we do just monitor it just through Tyler. We'll do a report. Sometimes we'll make sure that by mid-year, we know certain items should be at a 50%. Others may be a little bit over, but it is based on that item. For example, insurance might be out of whack just because of the nature that we pay a lot of it upfront.
Right.
So at the higher level, we do, I know I do that because I'm used to doing that just at a kind of looking at it overall. And then of course, when we do the DFA quarterly report, that also gives us another opportunity to see where they're at. But every department kind of is tracking their own. And if we see something that they're spending a little bit too much, then we bring it to their attention, but not on a regular basis, like Mike is saying. They pretty much do it their own.
And what they're doing too is watching, especially like this time of year with the fuel going crazy. So, they're really watching, at January, if they were at 60% in January, then they're like, hey, we got to start watching this. That's when they may start towards this time of the year, they may start moving money up because they'll get a report that says you're overdrawn or you can't put a purchase order in that account because there's no money in it. So they move internally money from
one other line.
utilities over to there.
Yeah. Okay.
You mentioned fuel. Do you all do a bid for all the fuel you expect to use every year?
There's a contract that's done, and I can't remember the company, it's a local company that has the contract for that fuel. Pardon me?
Wakefield.
Yeah, Wakefield has the contract, and then we get the discount off the pump price or whatever.
Right. Well, and I mean, got a big bump because you pay, but I don't know how your contracts work, but you front load, front expend, if you will, and then you use that down as the year goes out. Just like insurance, you make one check a year on insurance and it throws everything out of kilter, but you soon catch up. Understand how it's done. You always got a upfront cost.
But to answer the point blank answer your question, Counselor, I don't sit down with my departments. I have department heads and I'm going to hold them responsible for their budgets. If the police chief comes in and says, hey, man, I screwed this up and that's on him.
Yeah.
He's going to fix his budget. He's going to come up with.
Trying to understand again how the process works.
I wasn't trying to skirt around.
No, you're not. I'm just trying to get knowledge and I appreciate that. So.
Okay. You want to go through this historical deal? What do you want to do?
I'm waiting for Saturday.
You wait for Saturday?
I think.
Can I make a comment? And I'm trying to be real quiet here. If you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Bob. I've been here in this hole for 10 years and we reminisce a lot lately. We didn't have the Tyler system when I came in. Most of this staff was not even here. I can count on one hand how many was here, maybe two at this point. They brought the Tyler system in. It's been working great. And within the last 10 years, we have learned to trust our staff completely. When you say pull strings and stuff, that system between the Tyler system and trying to get it done within the last 5 days before we had to vote on it was a nightmare. No one actually knew the program before the Tyler system. What was it called, Jason?
HT.
It's called chaos.
I know, and they had to move over from it. Yeah.
It's called chaos.
Yeah. And we've spent the last 2 years getting this perfected, and I understand you want to know where every single penny is, and this staff is willing to work with you on that. It's a rough time of the year to work on that because of when you came in. But I can't stress enough how we believe in our staff and we trust our staff to tell us what needs to be done and which way to go. I don't have a problem with talking to them and all of that. They're not leading us blindly. If you look at the city and how it is improving, they are not leading us blind. I'll be done with that.
Well, I'm very familiar with what the Tyler system, I've been operating on Tyler for a long time. Not this version. I think your version may be more robust and probably needs to be, but when I look through here, one of the things that it shows me is on page 13, for instance, you look at under the engineering department, you look at, I assume this is overtime, third line down. Under the engineering.
It's 13 horizontally or.
The number at the bottom of the page, not the side of the page.
Okay, I was looking at it this way, okay.
But when I look through here and I see, I assume It's overtime. Page 13. Here at 22.
Oh, so it's the other 13.
Which, yeah,
Okay.
Engineering.
Where it says
So page 4.
FT, OT. I assume that OT stands for overtime. And I look across all the way to the end and it's up 106%. And those kind of things kind of jump out at me.
yeah.
And I'm not going to ask for full explanation on that. I'm just pointing this out. I'm using it as an example of this tool can be very helpful. It can be a real hindrance too.
Well, and I think part of it is the system doesn't allow us, when we download it to a PDF file, to manipulate some of the numbers. So on the revenue, because the last number of years, all of the history that's on there for the GRT is done as transfers. So historically, they did it all as transfers, so it was all up there.
Right.
So, but for purposes for you all, I manipulated that and moved it down what it would have been had we been doing it this way all along. So it was comparing apples to apples. This is a new department. So the history out there starts in 22. And so when the other spreadsheet that's used for payroll, Renee and I spent a lot of time calculating hours and all of that, especially for any of our new funds that had no history on them, and calculating them. And that's, so I'm confident in the payroll numbers. You might not like them, but they're accurate.
Well,
No, I don't disagree that you got them wrong. I mean, you got, when I saw your worksheets, those were very thorough. You didn't miss anything.
yeah.
And so that was very impressive work that what you've done there.
So looking at the percentages on like engineering, it's not reflective of a good number. Because it wasn't a fund or it wasn't a single department.
Will be a more believable number.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not questioning the ability of the people that are working on this stuff, but trying to understand and get a trend on the next page, page 14. General fund, and you got a bunch of zeros in FY13, or excuse me, FY12, 2 and 1. And then I've got a current year actual and the budget amount. So you can't get any comparison with any prior history because it wasn't in the system for whatever reason. I understand all that.
Yeah. And given more time, I would have gone in there and done it on
Well,
Excel and got it all nice and pretty for you.
right.
No,
No,
I think you've done a good job. And, sometimes you just need to let the system work itself out, build your data.
That's right.
About the
Give it time.
and let time heal all of that. And
Yeah, moving from what we had to Tyler, as phenomenal as this is, there's been a whole lot of gray hair. And watching it happen, it's just been hard.
Well, I did 2 statewide computer systems when I was in the courts.
Was that on Commodores? What was that?
I had one.
It's just about got enough liquid in it to make it to the end of the thing.
Over there.
But and we went to the Tyler system from, I don't remember what the
So
first,
you walked through some of this misery as well.
I experienced it on a daily basis for a long time. But I mean, I understand about computer transition and I mean, we didn't have any computerization at the court to speak of. We had computer terminals, but all they did was produce paper. And then we got to a so-called management system, which didn't do anything for the management of the court and cases and stuff. And it was just a big database was all it was. And then we went to the Tyler system and you could actually go in there and do aging reports. And I could tell, and I built a program myself that would query against Tyler And I aged my cases. I knew what case was the oldest and which was the newest and where it was in the system. But I did that. Took me forever to get that sucker out. But I finally got it figured out. And so I'm real big on history and currency and all those forms that you got to figure out how to get aging reports, because that's the only way you know where you're standing. Instead of, well, we're dividing by 9 because we've got 9 months of real data here. Well, if you've got a little different criteria on your aging, you can be more accurate than 9 months.
Right.
So that's the point. And it's not any disrespect or not trusting staff. It's just, it's an understanding thing. And I'm sorry, you guys got to go through this misery of pounding it in my thick head. And my cat. Remember?
I took a deep breath to say something. I said, no, I'm going to let that go.
And we're gonna spend a lot of time on this next year. We don't have that much time, but 2 areas that I want to see that I'm actually really invested in is our infrastructure. That's my focus for this time. And that focus is not going to change as long as I'm on the city council. I think everybody thinks that there's some priorities that we've got to do. And one of them is public safety. That's the number 1 issue, public safety. And the second one is our infrastructure. And then we can start doing some of this other stuff. I have no familiarity, and I'm not going to claim that I have anything with the stuff that Ms. Jennings.
Preaching to the choir on that one. I believe our job is, of course, to balance a budget, but municipality provides safety and infrastructure. Anything above that, wonderful. But that's my focus.
On those points. I mean, I'm not into this quality of life stuff. That's a new thing for me. And I'm sure that Ms. Jennings gonna pull her hair out before she gets me educated. And, parks, swimming pools, all, and civic centers, all that stuff, that's foreign to me. I admit it up front. So
I never believed that you weren't a swimmer and a gym exerciser. I'm shocked.
I'm not gonna even.
He had no swimming pool on that ranch.
He had a drive.
And I'm not, and whenever I was learning to swim in Cahoon Park Pool, we had to pay a fee. I mean, I get that.
I'm curious, not to interrupt you, but I look at all of these overtime that we're paying. I'm just curious, as a total, what is the city paying in overtime? It's a large number with fire, and I get some of that, but I don't get it all.
Yeah.
And when that's $1.6 million number, and police is a lot less than fire when it comes to overtime. Those are big numbers. And how do you stop those big numbers?
Mr. Chairman.
And they're telling me you're fully staffed on fire, and you still pull.
Yeah. I can't answer on the fire as much, but having 2 boys that are on the police department, not that I wasn't interested before, but I'm even more interested, know everything's done well. There's so many times when if everything could be consistent, everything's great. But it's those when you have a significant accident out on the freeway.
I get all that, but I'm looking at fire and going,
Fire side, so they have their minimum man. So NFPA says that on a ladder truck, you have 4 people on the front, you gotta have 3 people. So you have that shift at 27 people on duty per day, and they allow 1 lieutenant, 1 driver, or 1 firefighter on vacation. That's it at a time.
Right.
So they pick their vacations a year in advance. They'll go in on January the 1st and they pick for the year. Then somebody's wife has a baby and they're off, or one of them gets sick. And now you've got that lieutenant and another one off. Now they're in the hiring thing, and that hiring is for 48 hours. Because they work 48-hour shifts, 48 on, 96 off. So that lieutenant, that extra lieutenant they just hired is now on a 48-hour overtime shift. So if you multiply that by, then there was a driver off on vacation and off sick. And then a firefighter on vacation and one of them called in sick that day. Now you just hired 3 people for that 48-hour.
Add into that COVID year.
COVID hit us.
So that overtime is, no.
But we're projecting 1.6 million for next budget year.
Right.
And I just like, okay, how do you address that? Or is there a way to address
Well,
that?
as of today, I think we're down a deputy fire marshal and,
One lateral, one fire.
one lateral.
Yes, so fire inspector and one fire
So
lateral.
this is the first time in a long, long time I can say that we are this close to being fully staffed at the fire department. So I don't expect them to
Be that
do
1.6.
that one. But every year in the past, we've been short everywhere from 12 to 7 firefighters short at one time. So we've had.
And we're really close this year. This 4 years I've been here, this is the closest we've been. It's those 2 positions.
That's all right, we're getting somewhere. We're learning. Look here.
What's that one then?
So FICA out of the convention center. It's up 716%, and there's no prior. And I expect what we're going to hear, is this on page 26? 26,
Page 12,
no,
right-hand page 17.
well, 26 at the bottom of the page is when you turn it.
Yeah, I can't read it when I turn.
I understand, so I'm just,
We were closed and then had it contracted out through Spectra. So we were not,
They weren't staffing, it was all contract out,
it
correct?
was closed for for the year of COVID or a year and a half.
well, and I'm not questioning the number.
Mhm.
I'd like to have a little of the history on why we're there, and you just gave it to me. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to go through here, and there's no, I expected that answer looking at these zeros in the first 3 columns. We either are accounting for it differently, or we got a new ball game. And in this case, we got a new ball game. Huh?
Again, when I see lodger's taxes paying for police and fire overtime, that's because now we're allocating expenses.
For members of the committee, that is our special event lodgers tax overtime. So when we have organizations that ask for police or fire, it's an eligible expense, so we charge it to lodgers tax at that line item when we use our police or their fire. So the 2 largest organizations that have used it in the past is the fair, the Eastern Mexico State Fair, and Hyphae and Spike.
Yeah, so we're supplying that to them and paid out of lodger's tax.
Yes.
We're not asking for reimbursement on that. We're just supplying it and charging it lodger's tax. That's the way we can go get lodger's tax that we couldn't touch.
Right.
Gotcha.
A lot that maybe you've heard out there, but we had people on the ground,
No, that's just a way to get it covered. Because if we didn't cover it that way, it would come out of the general. Okay with it.
Department budget overtime.
Yeah,
Yes.
I got it. Okay.
And we have a code that when they are working that, we work with them to make sure that it hits lodger's tax so that it leaves some of that money in general fund
Yeah.
for those special events. Our lodger's tax applications are currently open for events, so they'll come and they'll request it on their application, and then we know when the reimbursement comes back, that's where we're charging it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Understood.
There's kind of 2 things that I look at, just for everybody's edification. I look at the percentage change, and here's one that's 114% increase, page 32, but it's just $182.
Well,
So, that was kind of hard for me to get excited about. It's on page 32. It's the middle section of numbers. If you look at the second line down in the middle section of numbers where you see 168% increase,
Mhm.
say it goes up from 2,000 to 5,000. And if you go down 1, 2, 3, 4 to the fifth line below that,
Water source.
it's admin, it shows as an admin.
Because we added more staff.
It's 114%, but it's just $128.
Mhm.
So you kind of gotta, you can't just look at a percentage. You gotta balance, you gotta do some balance. And then whenever you look over here, there's no priors, you go, oh, okay, so we changed the way we're doing business. For whatever reason. I got it. I'm not quite as dense as some people may think. Thank you, Council Perry, if you keep your mouth shut.
Again, I'm trying to wrap my hands around these increases, but you look at that one there, under water source of supply, and wages are up 21%. We short staffed there prior to because we should have only gone up 7%.
The water supply.
Is that what those 43, 50 degrees
See.
water maintenance?
Yeah, that one right there, you were sitting at 21% increase. So did we add
We
staff?
had staff, yes. I
That
think
wasn't there in a prior year.
that was actually,
Positions?
yes, there were open positions that were frozen in the year of COVID. So we had so many positions, we put a freeze on them and we didn't start hiring them until we were coming out of COVID that we need extra personnel.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, and that's the other thing that we've got
Frozen
going
when we
on.
opened them back up. Did we
Yeah.
operate efficiently when we were frozen?
Yeah,
It depends on what it was. The ones that we did operate officially, we didn't put those back. And the ones that we could tell we were hurting, we closed down and didn't run, like the library. When we did open that back up, it was just for a short period of time, and we're just now got back to the 7 days a week on that one. So we've taken them back slowly.
Right.
But yeah, there were some positions that were eliminated. I can't think of one right off the top of my head. I know there was some that didn't come back. That was put over in another department,
Yeah,
that position and the money for that position.
yeah. Well,
so that makes this job of balancing this sucker and looking at 2 years ago stuff, because we had this downturn. You made the comment to me, you cut the budget by how much was it?
23%.
23%. And we're now trying to play a little catch up. So that 23% is gone. Plus we're increasing salaries 7% round figures. And so that's the other thing that's going on here that you kind of got to wrap your arms around. It's hard for me to do, I mean, I get it, but this learning process. I dig deeper than some people.
okay, well, answer that.
Okay. All right. So I want to get through this. As much as we can, because we're out of time, we got to delve into the real numbers here. The gross numbers, I guess, or the bigger numbers. And then when you get through that, starting on 37 is the operating summary in detail. It starts out with all sorts of stuff.
37. You put 32, yeah.
And the cemetery is, we've already discussed that one. I think at least I'm clear on what's going on.
Yeah, can't do anything about it.
Oh, that's kind of where we're at.
You're listening.
That may be dangerous in itself.
I got a question for later. Whenever you get
Well, we're about to wrap this up. Saving Saturday.
Sell lock something.
Yes.
Okay, well, if you allow me,
People from City Hall that had a former employee that taught them how to do that because it's legal sales of property.
Right.
And did a crash course on that. So we learned from that mistake. We hired additional office staff now and trained more people on that process of selling lots.
I was out there 2 weeks selling lots and helping in the office. So it was a crash course. And we added the supervisor position as well,
Yes.
the second one because of Ruben being out.
Yes. Councilor Pesa, you have something?
Yes, sir. I don't know if this is the proper time or maybe I need to wait till Saturday, but I've talked to Juan and I've talked to Joe about the possibility of looking at bringing everybody to $15 an hour. You got like 122 people that are making less than 15. And I think you gave me an amount of 248,000. I don't remember exactly what that amount it would take to bring everybody up to the $15 an hour level. And I know Joe sent us some an email that said that the state minimum wage is $12 and something. But we got several that are below that at 1167, 1162 or whatever. So if that is correct, then we're not even meeting the state minimum wage. And so, you know, that's what I was wanting to bring up to see what kind of impact it would have on the budget. If we were to bring everybody that is below the $15 mark up to the 15.
That's certainly appropriate to bring up. Timing is perfect. So let me ask this question for you folks that are been around here for a day or two. Of those, how many did you say are make below 15?
Well, I'm basing it on the report that I got from Human Resources, which I know that it right now is horribly wrong.
Yes, this changes every single day. Yes.
It does change every day probably. But from that report, we had 613 at that point that employed, and that's including elected officials. So if you subtract the elected officials, we end up with about 600.
607? 607, 602.
603. And so out of those 602 is where I got the numbers of 122 people making less than 15.
Mr. Chair and councilors, and definitely we can update that if we need to and provide it on Saturday as well. What I presented to Councilor Oropesa was a report because this budget does include the 7% increase. So it was accounting for, I believe Mr. Oropesa Councilor Oropesa received a report of current salaries. And of course, the current salaries, those positions that are on the border of going over 15, the 7% increase that's in the budget will move a lot of those positions out of that 15. But then what I presented was a report counted for that already over and said, these are the remaining employees that remain under 15. And it was less, I believe the number was closer to 85, after the 7.9% increase. So I can definitely update that and we can, share that as well.
Well, and the extra dollar to bring them all up is going to change because we went from 120 to 80 round figures.
Yeah.
And so the number, they're getting close to that 15, even though that they're below the line and it'll take less money. I'd be interested looking at that data.
Sure. I'll certainly make it as one of the.
And the other question I have, if anybody knows, is how many of those people that are making less than 15 are covered by one of our union contracts?
That was going to be my question. And has there been anything from the unions that's come up with concerns on that?
I've got the union contracts fully digested.
Say that one more time.
So I have a copy of the union contracts, but I have not fully digested them.
Chairman, I don't think we don't right now have it broken down to, because I know the library pages and things like that may be under that 15 would not be part of a union.
That's correct.
We would have some, so we'd have to break it down and tell you how many were under union and how many were not. So I don't know that right now.
We've got 3 different unions.
Yes, sir.
Yes, fire, police, and blue collar.
Yes, sir.
And I don't have any reservations looking at the data. I think there's more data that needs to be considered as well at that. We have a library page being paid at minimum wage right now. And then you have I don't know, but like within our, so I don't know, like with, who's someone that's making 15 right now.
Bring up one of the water maintenance, if you will.
So just as what the point I'm trying to make, when you've got the position that's been at 15 to do this this, not the ones less quality, you don't understand what I'm saying, that the technicals of doing the job. When you bring that one up to 15, what are we going to do with that one that's making 15?
It's a problem. We got, it's.
I know like one of our laborers make about, I think Parks laborers make about $11.56 an hour right now. And then you have probably your water maintenance who are probably right underneath, I want to say about 14.96 around there roughly. But then you have some that are lower.
Does it have
Sorry?
hourly rate?
4.
Okay.
Some of them, but we do have some that are on the lower end. I mean, she's gonna hide them right
Well,
now.
that's the other thing is it messes up your matrix.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting at. I need to see that data as well. But, if we could make something,
You take an employee who's been here, let's say 45 days, and have an employee who's been here, let's say 7 years. There's the difference. You have one that's making 15, this one's making 15. So we have a problem there.
So, and for example, as you can see here on the water side, we have a vacancy that right now is being advertised at 1355. We have this individual, Ramon Zapata, at 1525. We have David Ferguson at 1466. This position would move up. And realize sometimes some of these positions, even whether it's Mr. Zapata, might have been here, I don't know, maybe a couple of years.
That's 5.
So I know Joe has expressed, and I think I shared that as well with Mr. Councilor Oropesa, that obviously the $15 will push everybody up against those that have been here a number of years, which then compresses those scales. And it's just something that not normally is going to happen.
Somewhat problematic. You got a guy that's been working there for 15 years, making 16, and a guy 16 an hour, and you got a guy you just hired comes in the door, $15 an hour, you're going, I mean, I would. So I agree, we need to look at it.
And using the library page versus it helps.
I'm not sure that now, maybe that we need to address it right now because we got 2 weeks left. We got to get this budget to sanity.
Councilors, and we are, right now, we have the compensation study underway.
Yes, so we're about 4 months out from that being completed, 4 to 5 months.
That'll help. Okay.
So I understand things, if we can put that on the table at a later date and see what the compression thing does when we have to look. I know it's a delicate thing to do for employees who have been here. I get the same thing every day when we're looking out for new people and to get them in the door versus what we've had in here. People get irritated, but they get over it.
If you can juggle that and figure out how to.
I will tell you, they get irritated, but they get over it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we have to still look at it.
well, I don't disagree with it.
And I think since we've got new studies that ought to be completed, that
And I guess one of the things that we need, probably would be wise to do, is look at the state, because the state just up their salaries to $50 an hour starting in July. Well, they want to run the same problems.
Right.
Of people that have been there. So.
Right. What do you do with them? And I don't know what the county has done.
I don't know about the county.
Oh, I worked for the state for 15 years and they wouldn't care that it compressed you. That's just you're out of luck because you worked there that
Yes.
long.
Right.
I worked for the state for 25 years and, same thing.
They didn't care.
And I was with the state for 3 years, we never received a raise. They hadn't received a raise in 8 years when I was there. So
I agree with my counselor, Betty, that it's something we need to look at, but let's be smart about it. And let's look at all, and we've got a study underway.
yes, sir.
I think we gotta wait until the study comes out. And we can make a mid-year adjustment, whatever we decide to do. that'll actually time pretty good. And, we've done half-year salary increases. So what happens is that you take the sting out of it, if you will, or if you can get a half-year salary. And then, so you can take a little step and then you finish it off in the next budget cycle.
Yeah.
So that's also little tricks of the trade that I've learned over the years.
Thank you.
All right. So, well, we've been at this. I mean, we could get out of here maybe before 6:30 and wait for Saturday to finish it up. I mean, we've been meeting till 6:30.
I've been meeting since 10.
Anyway,
I hear 10:45.
I want to, two things that I want to cover real quick. One, I want to thank you all because I know you guys have been working under the gun because of the time compression. Thank you. I appreciate your due diligence and trying to stay focused on this thing when we can't figure out where the door is. Talking about you. And the other thing is that I want to make it perfectly clear that this has nothing to do with any fee increases or decreases. This is just the budget. We'll discuss those items at another time, because I think it's on a lot of people's minds. This is just taking the suspected revenue and putting it into the suspected operation cost. And so we're not going to be talking about golf fees or convention center fees or zoo fees or any of this other stuff. That's off the table. We're looking at the numbers that we've got and knowing full well if we do any of those adjustments, it'll have to be eventually reflected back in the overall budget. I got it.
Yep. I'm fine with that.
But I got inquiries about you guys raising the fees or you lowering the fees and all this other stuff. And I go, no, this is just the operational budget. We're taking credit for the money that's raised. We're playing it in the budget. If we make those adjustments at another time, then we'll make those adjustments at another time. Okay.
Gotcha.
Anybody else have any last minute comments, thoughts? And I think we've got through the budget of not the budget, but the salary side.
Yes, we've got salaries. And
we
nor do we have the capital.
Right. Now, the capital, let me ask this question. It's in our overall budget. All of this stuff is in there. And we've got a bunch of POs. So that tells me that these are already, or most of this is already in the already encumbered side of the ledger, if you will.
Right. I'm curious to know what is new coming on as to this budget.
And Council, Mr. Chair, councilors, so I think as part of what staff may recommend on Saturday would be to include projects as well. And will be some of the recommendations on how we can move those levers.
Yeah.
And we'll review those projects and we'll categorize them as those that have already POs, those are new, and those are a grant. I think you have the ability to say yes or no, or maybe we'll just hold up until your adjustment.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Anything else? We got to go to comments from the public.
Family, 2815. I've been coming to this meeting since. Who was the mayor? Gilmore. Liberal. That was my first meeting. And going probably 80%. And I have to say that in the last 10 years, the city's had a lot of progress and a lot of people need to be congratulated. And I think we're on the right path. And let's keep on doing it.
Good. Sounds good. All right. Anybody in Cyperland have any comments? Going once? Going twice? Okay, we're done. We're adjourned. Thank you all.
5:41.
Sorry for laying.
Thank you.
Kind words.